Kia ora everyone, lovely to see you all and to be here, and thank you for this interview today. Really happy to be here in a very busy cafe. It's amazing the number of people who are here. It's really good to see, because I know that our local businesses have struggled over the lockdown, and it's good to see that people are back out supporting them. Being Queen's birthday weekend, it's good to see a number of people here in Tauranga as well, and here supporting our local economy. Great to see.
We are here today to have a real conversation with a real person, but also a person that we could say that she's the most humble and most educated person that I have come across. So we are now going to be live with her at one of the local cafes here, Robert Harris, which is also we are trying to see how after lockdown what we are experiencing, but more than us it will be Jan Tinetti, the person whom I will be interviewing very soon to know her experiences after the lockdown. Thank you very much for your time today to actually come and meet with us. But also we are going to know this is not any political or anything like that, but this is absolutely a conversation with you and your experiences, what you feel, the New Zealand that we are living now and the New Zealand that was just 2 months ago before this pandemic started. So first of all, Jen, I would like to know, just give me or describe me a day when this all started. What was one day that you could single out and that you could think about of what do you feel?
So when so I'm just going to go back just a little bit.
Yep.
Before my journey into politics started, I was in education for a long time, so about 30 years as an educator, 20 of those as a primary school principal here in New Zealand. And I know that I bring a lot of my education hat into what I'm thinking and what I do and what I see as well. And when we were looking in January and February of 2020, of this year, around what was happening, we could see that the COVID experience overseas was getting quite big and quite worrying, and then looking at how that was going to play out here in New Zealand. And I have to say that I really worried about what was going to happen in the education system at the time. I worried about what this would mean for education. If we went into shutting down our schools, for example, would we be able to open them again? Would we be able to get back to with our kids at school? Would our young people have learning experiences if we shut the schools? What would happen? And it was a real concern. And I'd have to say that I was really impressed with what actually happened when we did actually lock down. Schools were worried, young people were worried, I was worried, we all were really worried about what might happen, but the school system seemed to cope with that really, really well. And I think right back at the beginning of our lockdown experience, my take on what happened from an education perspective is in those days leading up to that, is that the teachers, the parents, the students handled that really, really well and were able to transition very smoothly into that lockdown in a very, very short notice of time.
Yes, I definitely appreciate that. Coming from education and what will happen to education was a big question, because we have got so many kids in our house and they are our future for the country. So it's quite obvious that you were quite concerned and quite not understanding where this life is going to take us. But that's good. Can you also throw some light on, since you were having all the education background and what education would look like afterwards, but as a family, can you throw some light on your family and how do you cope during those times? So
me during lockdown, I have husband at home, and we, surprisingly enough, have 2 children who were both living away, and the surprising part is that they both came home for lockdown. So they're in their 20s. One lives in Auckland, and he decided when he found out that it was going to come into lockdown that he would come home, because I think he liked the idea that mum might be cooking at home over that time, so he thought that that was a really good thing to come home to. And then my other son actually was living in London. Him and his partner were living in London, and they lost their job over there through COVID in the UK, and so they decided to come home and arrived 2 days before lockdown. They isolated and quarantined in our house. We have a big house, so they were able to live for the 2 weeks of quarantine in the bottom story of our house. Unfortunately, what that did mean is that I had an office at home, and that took my office out because I couldn't use it. So for 2 weeks at the beginning of lockdown, I was working on an ironing board with my computer and doing Zoom meetings and select committees and all sorts of things on an ironing board. And I was very happy after those 2 weeks that I could then go back to my office, and I felt great after that time. But what it did mean is that I had my 2 adult sons. I felt like that was a bit of a gift to have them at home again over that time. I didn't think that I would ever have my 2 sons living at home again, so what a gift I had to have them there. My husband got a job in the first week of lockdown. He was supporting schools in their distance delivery. So he got that. He was working full time. I was working full time, mostly helping support people who had had employment issues or issues that had happened to them during the lockdown and in that transition through. So I was really happy with the way that I could actually help people over that time and help them transition through the lockdown and actually navigate that time well. I'd have to say, as I say, there were lots of good things for me, but it hasn't been an easy time for people. There's been a lot of unsure things, a lot of things that have happened to them that they've been unsure about, things that they didn't foresee would happen that have happened, maybe losing their job or having their hours cut or having their pay cut. Having said that, it's been a real privilege to be able to help people. So the lockdown for me was a privilege because I was able to help and support people through that time and make it easier for a lot of people.
So the other thing is, you mentioned that you were working from home, you made your office as your home. What experience you think that was like working from home, kind of? Because everybody, most of them are thinking that that's the new norm. What do you think, whether it is going to be a new norm?
I actually think that it's shown us over this time that there are new ways of working. So I think the lockdown has given us a new way of working. The technology was right at the time to make this real for us. The ability to be able to have meetings via Zoom or via Skype or however we connected with each other over that time made life a lot easier. Our select committees, for example, in our parliamentary select committees, we had Zoom meetings for our select committees. So we were coming from all over the country. Our clerk of the House had gone home to her parents' house in Waihi. So she was coming in from Waihi. We had our chair was in Auckland. I was here in Tauranga. We had people as far south as Lawrence in the South Island.
Right.
And we were coming from all over the country. People were coming to submit to us via different parts of the Zoom connections, and it worked really, really well, and I can see that working well in the future as well. I know now, and I've already done this, is that when I'm in Wellington, so last week, an example, I was in Wellington and there was an important meeting here in Tauranga. Once upon a time I would have said I can't attend that meeting because I'm in Wellington. I attended that meeting no problem whatsoever via Zoom.
Wow.
So it is a new way of working, and I think that's to be celebrated.
I totally agree. I totally agree with you. That definitely is a good way of approach to the life, which we thought that we'll never have that kind of approach. We were too complacent, I guess, with the old norms. But good that something new has come out, isn't it? So would you consider this as more new norm, as lifestyle changes or lifestyle challenges? You see anything in this? Or this is going to be a good lifestyle change for you? Or what sort of lifestyle changes you have noticed that has made some positive impact on you as well?
Again, I think nothing takes away from face-to-face meetings. I think face-to-face meetings are really good to help build relationships, and it's really important that people connect in reality. However, from going forward from here, I think this is a new norm that I sometimes will drive 3 hours to go to a 1 hour meeting. I can now do that 1 hour meeting from my home, and both parties can actually have a lot more time because they're coming in for that 1 hour meeting and they're very focused on what they're doing. So I think we need to work a lot smarter. I think that this has taught us how we can work smarter. There are people in the public service now who can actually do their work from home. There are people that are realising, actually, I don't have to always come to this one point. I can do a lot of work from home and become more focused with what I'm doing. That's got to be good for people, as long as we don't get rid of that physical connection completely. It's really important that we do keep that up. But it's good for the environment, all the cars off the road.
All the
cars, not people not getting stressed when they're stuck in traffic because they can actually work from home. I think it's teaching us that there are alternative ways. This might not be the only way, but it is teaching us to think up how there can be alternative ways.
So you think that this could be a good positive outcome in terms of finding innovative ways of doing things? Whether it's work, whether it's home, so work-life or home-life balance?
Yeah, I think that it can be for a lot of professions, but we've got to be very careful because there's a lot of professions that isn't possible for too, and so we have to find that balance for people. We also have to make certain that we're still getting out and about and supporting business locally as well. So we can't just stay in our own little homes and our own little places and our own little bubbles. We actually have to get out, because otherwise we won't have the businesses to support us in what we're doing. So we have to think, how can we have that balance and how can we make that balance? But I think there's a lot of positives that we can look at. I think that, as I say, this might not be the only way, but it makes us think outside the square. And I will say this, in education, for example, I said right at the outset that I wondered how education would adapt. The pride that I feel in the education system now is huge, because I didn't realise the education system could be as adaptive as what it was. We have this perfect opportunity now. Before, the education system couldn't move very quickly because we were working in one paradigm and one way of being, and we couldn't really imagine what else it could be. But now we have experienced something different, and we have the ability to be able to imagine what else we could be doing. It doesn't necessarily have to look like what that few weeks looked like, but we can actually start to think the world can be different, we can do things differently. So we do have a window of opportunity, and that's really exciting.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant, Jane. I think, so there are lots of positives to be taken out, isn't it, from this whole situation that we are into currently. So I have seen, yes, and I agree that you have been absolutely a fantastic advocate for education, for kids, and that's your priority, and that should be priority for everyone. In my world as well. I am also quite passionate about education and kids. So in terms of what you see in the future now, that we are adopting a little bit changes to the new norms, the kids having family time at home, and then kids learning online. So the work-life balance, the lifestyle changes, everything is like mixed up at the moment. The direction, we don't know which direction to take. In your view, as a mother, as a teacher, as an educator, and as a husband, and everyone, as a family person, what life balances that people should really now adapt, or you think that they should be more flexible to adapt everything? Is that the new norm going to be?
I absolutely think the new norm is going to be flexibility. I think that is a trait that people will adapt to, is to actually embrace flexibility. I think it's going to look very different for everyone, and so one of the things that we used to, before all of this happened, that we used to feel was guilt around the fact that we didn't have a work-life balance. I think what the few weeks taught us of the lockdown was that actually there's a lot of things we worried about that we shouldn't worry about. There's a lot bigger things that we need to actually be concerned about. So we need to look at, every person needs to look at what's important for them. I will say though that one thing that I noticed here in Tauranga during the lockdown, particularly during level 4, that I thought was a fantastic effect of what was actually happening during the lockdown, was the number of families out spending time together when they'd have their little walks around the block and their bike rides. It was great to see all of the family out together enjoying each other, and I'd have to say that there were times when my kids were growing up that I never managed to achieve that because we were always so busy. I think we need to actually be mindful of taking time to breathe and taking time to be caring to each other.
I agree.
And taking time for our family life, because we're never going to get that time again.
Yeah,
so I think that's important.
Once time lost is lost, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So no, that's fantastic, and that's another thing which I wanted to ask you. So I heard you came from South Island. You are an original born bred South Islander, which is one of the most beautiful tourist destination. And Tauranga also is one of the best tourist destination, but also it has got the port, which makes it more unique as well as a more spotlight for our country. And you being in that role as an MP of this Tauranga beautiful city, what things you would like to see currently happening with the new norm, with the new flexibility, with the new challenges that you have been interested on it? What do you think your first achievements would be to achieve in this city? When I say achievement, it's not a big achievement in monetary or anything. It's an achievement of success where we think that we have created a city with a new norm and also moving forward toward a new norm.
So Tauranga, as you pointed out, has the port. It's a very popular destination because it is beautiful, and I just love the city, which is why I'm so passionate about this city. But what people don't see a lot of in Tauranga is that the economy has been fantastic, but it's been a little bit inequitable. So where my school was before I went into politics was a very low socioeconomic area of the city, and there was some real hardship in there. I think what we have the opportunity of going forward now is to look at that and to make a more equitable economy going forward. Tauranga will come through this really well because we've got the port, we've got some really standout businesses. My goal is to get in and support those businesses and to help them, to help be one of the navigators through what is going on at the moment for them, to encourage people to get out and support the local businesses such as this fantastic cafe, to get people really out and about, but at the same time be mindful of the fact that we've got this part of the city that we can't just let go, and that's the low socioeconomic area, the part where people have poverty. We need to start getting in and supporting programs that will support those people to come ahead in life and have the same opportunities as everyone else in the city. And when we see that, we'll know that we've got the perfect city. When we see that there's a more equitable economy, that we don't have the big differentiation between the wealth and the poverty, we know that we will have achieved that. And I think, again, COVID has been a terrible experience in some respects, but great opportunity for us to be able to grow our equitable economy.
Thank you very much. That's a good insight, Jen, because I can see that two highlights what you want to see with this city, beautiful city, and they can be more beautiful and they can be only beautiful with two things. What I can see, take from your point, is equity for everyone, and also child poverty, which should be eradicated and not just like, it should be eliminated, I would say, just like COVID-19. We have done a marvelous job, we should do that. So I really appreciate that, but also this is a good learning curve for everyone. These 2 points, if we make it our own and as a national crisis and put it out for everyone to be a part of that for the success, I think we can easily eliminate these 2 things. So yeah, equity has always been a problem all around the world, but New Zealand, we shouldn't be. And why we should be. So yeah, I would love that. Now, Jen, coming back to your another expertise, I would say, that you have achieved quite a bit, isn't it? Like, you were a teacher, you started as a teacher, then you were a union activist, call it, advocating lots of things I've seen, and then also you were a principal. So your transition, your transformation has made you who you are, but also because of your passion for the kids, for the school, for the people, has led you to where you are today. I would really like to see what highlights you would achieve or you would have achieved till now, that all this transition from one position to another position, and now you are the MP of this beautiful city. What are the highlights that you think of during your time here as an MP, that you single out one thing?
So I went into politics actually a little bit reluctantly because, as you pointed out, I was a school principal here in Tauranga, and I really loved my position here in Tauranga. I thought it was my position in the school here in Tauranga. I thought it was the best job in the world. I was reluctantly came into politics, but I have no regrets. In fact, I'm really fortunate in what I've been able to achieve and what I've been able to do, because I was asked to stand up because I was a bit outspoken at the time about child poverty, and I wanted to see something being done around that. So I guess for me, on a local level, being able to advocate has been a highlight for me of the issues for the people that I was always advocating for, but on a much wider basis now, and being able to advocate for those people, being able to sort out issues for people that would walk into my office who would never once have walked into an MP office. So being able to sort out issues that have stopping them getting ahead. And they're people that are coming from all walks of life. Those people that came from the area where I was principal of, but also people that have immigration issues, people that have issues around study, all sorts of different issues. Being able to help those people, being an absolute assistance to them in making their lives easier and allowing them to be able to thrive has been the biggest highlight and the biggest privilege of my life. Being able to do that is something that I can't take lightly. It is just such a privilege to be in that position, to be able to help and assist people. But on a wider level, my biggest highlights have happened just recently. The fact that I've come from an education background, and there are people that used to work within my own school who were essential workers who were on no more than minimum wage, people like the teacher aides, and just in the last week their pay equity claim came through, and they're going to have an up to 23% pay rise because of they're going to be paid what they should have always been paid. And I'm really excited about those things. I'm excited that that I can be part of the discussions that allow us to actually make a difference for those people, and to help formulate the policy that allows us to make a really positive difference for those people. That's really exciting. Early childhood teachers, another group that's always been very much undervalued in the education system, suddenly we're starting to see some real gains, and that's because we've put time and effort into establishing that policy and now being able to implement it. So there's my local level work that I'm really, really proud of, but also the national level work, which I'm incredibly proud of, that we're able to make huge difference for people, and it really matters, and it really makes a big difference to their lives.
Yes, absolutely, you are right, Jen, and that you can see that now, that what I could see and what everybody should see, that this highlights that you have mentioned has gone a lot of hard work behind that. And being an educationist, being advocating of education, you have done absolutely marvelously, actively, and involved everyone into that, where you are seeing the results after so many years. So I really think that you have done a great, marvelous job, but also as a principal and as an educator, do you think that all other people, if they wish, think like you and actually start doing and acting, not worrying about the result, but just putting efforts, one day our education system will be one of the best education system, not just on paper, but in real terms. So I really appreciate your effort. So this is Jane. As you can see, that she is not just an educationist, but also she's passionate about people and making a difference. And the difference that we are seeing today is the result of this government is actually putting some implementation and putting some things in place where the hard work has gone from people like Jane and many other people. But Jane, thank you very much for that effort, and I'm sure you still keep doing, and you still have got desire and too much things to do in the education sector. So one of the other things which I would like to ask you is like, so this is what you have been doing and achieved so far. What is the future now for you, or what still you are hungry of, that you would like to see happen, like the teacher rate pay rise? Is there something more that is going to be coming forward for you in your mind going on, that I want to achieve this and I would like to see this? Is there any one highlight or two highlight that you would like to see?
First of all, I've got to concentrate on September, so okay. I have to concentrate on working to be elected back in again. That's really important for me, yes, because there are things that I want to continue to see happening, and I want to be there to ensure that my voice can come to the table, because I have to say that that's the beauty of being in Parliament, is that people come from all walks of life, yeah, because it is a House of Representatives, and it's really important that I can bring the voice of an educationalist forward, a real world voice, because otherwise people are just making it up based on their experiences of schooling. So that's really important. Some of the things that I would like to see going forward, we've still got a lot of work to do in the early childhood space. Early childhood education is our foundation, and it's really important that it's valued as such. And so we've made some announcements in recent times around working towards parity for our education teaching workforce, but we've still got to achieve that, and so to work towards that would be fantastic. But in the schooling sector, I would also like to see us looking at some work around principal workload. I know as a principal that I was absolutely burnt out. Right. And I know a lot of my former colleagues are feeling that way, because it is a big job that unless you're doing it, I'll go back to the principal, but yeah. So one of the things that I'd really like to see happen is some work around principal workload. Most people won't appreciate just how big that job is, because you'll see our very competent principals coping with that really well. But I know from personal experience that you can burn out in a major way. I felt tired with that job, even though I loved it, and all principals do love it, but it's such a big job, and so we need to look at a way that we can help and support our principals in the work that they're doing. So that's something that I want to investigate and look at going forward. We are doing some work around that with the Tomorrow's Schools reform, and that's really good. It's just to make sure that that's enough, that we are doing, and we're not putting more work onto our principals, that we are actually supporting them enough. Education and health are a bit the same in that you can put a lot of resourcing into them and it's never going to be enough. So what we've got to make sure is that the resourcing that's going in is having the biggest gains and helping support our workforce, that they can do a magnificent job, and that we're not trying to get in the way too much of our fabulously talented workforce that we have in education. Sometimes I think government can make a mistake of trying to get in the way too much. I think sometimes we need to actually have faith in our workforce and how incredible they are. So it's to make certain that education is held in the respect that it's due, and that's what my whole job is around, is absolutely standing there and saying this is how it actually works in the education sector, and let's trust our teachers to get on and do that job.
Yes, absolutely right. Well said. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's perfectly put, because there's lots of efforts for the principals that they have responsibility on their shoulders to not just make sure that the system works or the teachers works, but also the kids, they grow into that environment where they would become one of the best citizens of the country. And so, yeah, it's a huge responsibility, and there's a lot of work to be done on that space, which the approach of the school or the principals, the way it needs to be. So, yeah, I completely take your point, and it's good that you are still there, desire to be doing something for the education system all the time, as we keep learning all the time, as we say. Yeah, education is never-ending story, kind of. But that's good on you. So now I would like to say, Jen, so with all these things that you have achieved so far, and what you still have got lots to achieve, because it's a never-ending story, education, as we said, what in terms of the positives that you would say before lockdown, after lockdown, all these transitions that has happened in your life, and being responsibly positioned in that education sector where it is not something that people should give up or can give up, or it will never be given up, because that's where we are and that's where who we are. So in that space, what are the positive outcomes for you as a person, in person, that you think that, yes, geez, I have learned something and I want to learn something more? So in terms of that, what's your positive outcomes that you would highlight?
I've got heaps of positive outcomes, but they go a little bit before lockdown when they started. So at the end of last year, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and so I had an operation last year, and coming forward into lockdown, I was still recovering from the operation. What I've learned through that time, and for me personally, is not to stress about things, to actually take what's there, think about it, but don't actually let that get on top of you. Because I think I used to worry about lots of things. I think when I was a principal, I used to worry about my children, I used to worry about the families, I used to worry about my staff. And the same happened when I became an MP. I used to worry about the people that would come through my door. I used to worry about the schools. I used to worry about the centres. I still do. I still care. But I don't take those issues on board so much anymore, because I think we have to, and lockdown taught me that in a big way, is that we can't worry about those things. There are bigger things in the world that are bigger issues. We can't spend all our time worrying, because we're actually going to miss the solutions if we spend so much time worrying about things. We actually have to be keeping our mind open to the creativity that's out there, to the hope that's out there. We have to keep our eyes open to solutions that are out there, and that's really important. And for me personally, that's what I've learnt coming through that. I know that I'm way more effective in my job than I've ever been at any time in my history now, and I'm really excited about that. That's why I feel a sense of optimism and a sense of hope, and also a sense of bounce, to put it quite bluntly. I feel really excited because I'm not spending all my time and all my effort worrying about things that I don't need to be. I'm looking for the hope and the optimism in every situation now.
What I could see, Jen, that you are so positive with all the challenges that have gone through your journey before and after COVID, that I think you are so positive to do things and not worry about things, but just keep doing positively. So that's a real positive outcome, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. So here you can see how Jane has put forward her positive outcomes during this COVID-19 challenges that she has faced, but also as a person, as a personal challenges that what she has faced, and as a professional, that we all need to come together and understand that every person goes through challenges, but then coming out of it and doing things without any worrying thoughts of whatever could be, family, life, work, whatever. It's all about doing things positively, and that's the positive outcome I would take from here. Am I right in saying that, Jen?
Absolutely right.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jen, for your absolutely delightful conversation that we had. It was nothing but of like a political or anything, but we wanted to understand from you as a day in your life. You have put so many hats, and going through all those challenges, what would your experiences would be was an understanding to know from you. And I think we got some great experiences that everybody must have gone through, but your experiences were absolutely to be shared to everyone, so that you are not alone, or we are not alone in this. Everybody is same in this, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yes. So as you can see here, Jen has given us a very good insight in her local area, in Tauranga, at Robert Harris Cafe, which is a local cafe, and we definitely would love and encourage all the local people and all New Zealanders to come and visit. And I think I can take one positive outcome from here. Jan's door will be open for the whole nation, not just for Tauranga. What do you think, Jan? All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you to New Zealand World News for this opportunity for this interview today. It's been an amazing opportunity, and I really hope that I have more opportunities in the future to actually talk to you. Awesome work.